Hi there, my name is Paulo Cruz. I manage the Sustainable Food and Drink program at Glasgow Caledonian, and today our webinar will look at what supermarkets are doing to tackle climate change and how aligning your business practices to their environmental commitments can make you more competitive through better resource management, lower costs, and enhanced environmental stewardship. The Sustainable Food and Drink program is delivered by a dedicated team of 5 at Glasgow Caledonian University with funding from ERDF and CKIT. Our remit is to help food and drink SMEs become more competitive through better carbon management. This presentation is based on publicly available information, and it's when you see the supermarkets listed, they're generally listed by approximate market share. As a result of this presentation, we hope to show you how managing your carbon emissions can make your business more competitive. So, before we look at what supermarkets are doing, it's worthwhile considering why they're tackling climate change. It's a well-known fact that climate change is one of the biggest threats to mankind, and as a result of that, there has been this widespread mobilizations of effort. In the UK, the food system contributes to roughly 20% of the UK's greenhouse gas emissions, of which 50% happen after the farm. So, as a result of this widespread mobilization and enhanced awareness, people are beginning, or increasingly, including ethical considerations in their purchasing decisions. And this slide, provided by Scotland Food and Drinks Insights team, shows that the proportion of consumers actively looking to buy something on ethical criteria is increasing in some of Europe's bigger countries. And this quote illustrates that general feeling, in that consumers want to understand the social life of products and the stories behind their origins, their contact, production materials, and how they can be used, stored, or disposed. From our perspective, we feel that consumers are going to their supermarkets or the places where they shop and asking for products with enhanced environmental credentials. The supermarkets, in their turn, are engaging with their suppliers and saying, help us deliver products with green credentials. And all of these 3 stakeholders, they all recognize the importance of delivering and supplying products with environmental credentials. So, for example, if we look at what Tesco's saying, Tesco says that its customers and staff care for the environment. ASDA says that it wants to help customers reduce their carbon footprint, which would infer that ASDA's customers have expressed an interest in reducing their carbon footprints. Sainsbury's says that its customers expect high ethical standards, and it's going to help deliver those. And Morrison's says that its customers expect them to act responsibly. And finally, or last but certainly not least, Marks and Spencer says we have only one planet and time is running out. So all the supermarkets are engaged in tackling climate change and minimizing their contribution to it, and they express it in a variety of ways, including a recognition that there are financial opportunities from becoming green. And those of you that may have traveled to the US, you'll know that money is green. So now that we've considered why, we should look at what the supermarkets are doing. And broadly, there are three approaches to managing climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. The first is to tackle an organization's own or direct emissions, so from the processes they control. The second is to work with the supply chain to tackle wider emissions, and then to help customers reduce their own emissions. And in the remainder of the presentation, we'll see some examples of initiatives that span these three areas and approaches. It's widely recognized that there are four drivers and one could say benefits of tackling greenhouse gas emissions and footprinting. So carbon footprinting is the process of measuring greenhouse gas emissions. There are cost savings because carbon footprinting provides a simple framework for measuring emissions and identifying opportunities for cutting them in a systematic way. It enhances an organization's reputation because it demonstrates an environmental commitment that is not ambiguous, it's quantified. The process of measuring emissions, finding the data, implementing solutions engages with the workforce. And research from the Carbon Trust indicates that through this engagement contributes to employee retention and recruitment because people want to work for environmentally responsible companies. And finally, it encourages companies or businesses to adopt a proactive approach to collating data and demonstrating compliance with government regulation and targets and sector targets. So to manage emissions, there are 5 basic steps, regardless of whether it's measuring direct emissions, supply chain emissions, or consumer associated emissions. And it's kind of a loop. The starting point is to measure emissions, then setting targets for cutting those emissions, identifying initiatives that you're going to implement, so prioritization, taking action, and reporting. However, as a result of taking action, there's a loop back to measuring to see how effective that action was, and the process in essence kind of starts. This is akin to continuous improvement. All supermarkets have measured their emissions, prioritized areas to focus on, and set targets. They have all used carbon footprinting as a methodology, and they don't necessarily say it's mandatory that their suppliers measure their carbon footprint. They say it's a good idea. However, when we look at some of their plans, one would think that it's really a good idea to do carbon footprinting because all the supermarkets have supply chain initiatives around carbon footprinting, and for those to be successful, suppliers need to provide data. So here are some examples of 3 operational carbon footprints for Tesco's, Waitrose and Morrisons. And it should be pretty obvious that whilst there are similarities, there are also slight differences. And The existing methodologies leave it up to the companies to decide what they include, and the starting point is usually elements of operations where companies have direct financial control. With the Carbon Trust Standard, which we'll have explore in the next slide or so, as organizations go for recertification, the boundaries of what they have to include need to widen. So as time goes by, carbon footprints become more comprehensive. So as we move towards what the supermarkets are doing to tackle climate change, we should look first at some of their common approaches or commitments. They have all signed up to the British Retail Consortium's Better Retailing Climate, which sets out the sector's collective environmental ambitions. All of the supermarkets have the Carbon Trust Standard, have achieved the Carbon Trust Standard, which demonstrates their commitment to reducing their own operational carbon footprints and deliver year-on-year carbon reductions. They have all signed up to the Quartile 2 commitment, which is a commitment to improving resource efficiency and the carbon and wider environmental impacts of the grocery retail sector. If we look at specifics, the Better Retailing Climate encourages its signatures to look at the carbon impact or environmental impact from buildings, from how waste is managed, from how water is managed and used, from transportation and from refrigeration. The Carbon Trust Standard sets that as a minimum, standard bearers should deliver a 2% reduction in carbon emissions annually. And the Quartile 2 commitment looks at packaging, and it has 3 broad targets. The first is to reduce the carbon impact of packaging by 10% by 2012, and this, they suggest, can be achieved through lightweighting or using less packaging, increasing its recyclability and its recycled content. There is also a commitment to a 4% reduction in consumer food waste by 2012, so this might have implications for things like buy one get one free type offers, and also to reduce supply chain waste by 5% by 2012.